Look at that. I had faith in you, Mark.
Nice
Great.
job. Yeah, I was starting to get nervous though.
His answer this afternoon was, if Pete Dion can do it, anybody can do it. So, because I did it the last time, so.
Okay, thank you all. Welcome to the May 8th meeting of the Board of Gas and Light Commissioners. I call the meeting to order at 6:50 PM. And this meeting is being recorded. I have no specific chair remarks. Are there any commissioners' reports? And seeing none. And just note that we do have a spot for town council liaison comments, and as far as I know, we do not at this point have a town council liaison. Because now that Julie is no longer a town councilor, so we'll wait word from the town council and determine if they're gonna name somebody else in her. But
Actually, can I provide an update? Sorry, on
Absolutely.
something that it was a while ago, which is why it took me a second to remember if I had said it yet. Tom and I went to the town council meeting
oh, yeah.
on ARPA funding, and one of the items was solar on the Galvin. It was not selected, so the town councilor McLean was the one that brought the idea forward. I think he reviewed it with Dave and maybe
We had a
was
meeting,
here.
Yeah.
And he had a quote from a developer for the project, so he had some specific numbers, including cost, specifically cost. So that
How long ago was this?
5 weeks ago.
Oh, so not that, no, it was a month.
wasn't,
No,
Recent.
really recent. They were discussing, I think they had about
trying to find my quick summary, because I did send it to you, Peter.
just over $1 million.
Here it is, March 25th.
Oh.
So, yeah.
My birthday. I should have remembered that.
Oh, there you go.
I went to
So-
town council meeting on my birthday.
Wow.
I can send this email to all of you that I'd sent just summarizing what happened, but I can recap it quickly here. So it was a $500,000 project for partial solar, I believe, on the roof. That would not have been the ultimate cost, because there would have been federal funding that would have come off the top. So that was like the full cost of the project without any other funding sources contributing. So it did not pass, or it was not selected as one of the projects, but the town council did commit to drafting a warrant article for November town meeting to see if the project would be, if the town would vote to fund the project through the capital budget.
Through bonding.
Yes, and then the other thing that happened is the town council decided to stop funding low-income energy assistance through ARPA. Instead, they are drafting a warrant article again to incorporate this funding into the annual budget for November town meeting in time for the next heating season. And there was a comment that it would be
Barely in time, but
barely, yes. There was a comment that it would be good to coordinate that effort with weatherization and heating system updates that are going on through energy efficiency. So that is the quick update. The only other thing is the Forest Street Cemetery building is up for a new roof this fiscal year. I think it's a very small building, but we can see if there's any opportunity to put solar on it after that happens. And I don't know the timing. It was just approved in I think it was in the budget that was just approved at town meeting in April.
this is which building and which cemetery?
Forest Street Cemetery.
Forest Street Cemetery.
Forest Glade.
Forest Glade, is that it?
Right over here. Oh,
Forest Glade is the other one.
Oh, Forest Glade, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to picture the building, yeah.
I think it's probably just a small like
Well,
maintenance
it's a
building.
garage, like, and it's like on the side, so it's like got trees all around it, if
Yeah.
I'm picturing it correctly.
Yeah.
So it may or may not be
Might not,
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
worth looking into.
my preliminary drive-by said it's very shaded. So unless I don't think they would want to tear down the trees, but we can
No,
have Vinny look at it.
but yeah.
And what about, does anyone know about the Galvin when that was built? I'm sure they
So-
would have considered it at the time, so I'm wondering why.
No, they didn't. I don't believe they considered it at the time because this was kind of before any of the goals were in place. So the carbon reduction goals, so it probably wouldn't have gotten enough traction to add it to the project the way we're doing for some of the other buildings.
I
think it's at 10 years.
2010,
I think, which is why the timing is appropriate, because if you wait too much longer, the roof is like
Too old.
too old.
Yeah.
This is the right timing to get it on if we're gonna do it at all. That's why it came forward.
And I think the bonding, so the ARPA funds was to do essentially half the solar potential. The bonding that goes forth would be for the whole solar potential, potentially. And I also made the suggestion that if they're doing bonding funding, that they also look at doing the AmeriCal as well, because that's south facing roof, the roof side that faces the Galvin is actually probably outside of the Galvin. And the new high school, the town's most solar potential building from square footage and it's the way it faces.
Hmm.
And there was a proposal that DPW had done maybe a year, 18 months ago now, that hasn't gone anywhere for that building.
Okay, well, certainly when the energy efficiency comes up for discussion, they're gonna be looking to the light department too, because that's what we do, right? So,
Well, so that part is energy assistance funding. So that's just paying heating bills.
oh, it's not energy efficiency. I thought you said energy
But
efficiency.
they just said if there's a way to dovetail it with incentives we have for the same population, right? We could help address future
Okay.
issues with weatherization or heating systems.
So, okay,
But my understanding is it just, if somebody applies, they're just paying the
The rearage.
heating costs. Yeah.
so they'd be looking to maybe supplement what ratepayers are, low income ratepayers are already able to get through LIHEAP and other sources?
No, I think it would be if somebody comes through that program, seeing if they would like to get an audit and consider weatherization or incentives to address issues with their home with having to do with heating, that would reduce their heating costs in a future year.
Hmm.
And minimize that burden that they're experiencing. So yeah, I think the idea would be to looking forward what we could do to help them.
Did they say why they didn't want to use ARPA funds and wanted to defer that to the,
It's not a deferral, it's just a change in the funding source. So it was never, my understanding is it was never meant to be like funded forever and ever out of ARPA. It was a temporary,
temporary?
yeah.
And so
they-
now they're looking to find a permanent source for the funding by
exactly.
going to the town meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other commissioner comments or reports?
I just have one more question. So is the library not part of our remit in terms of, I think they just put a new roof on that structure. So is it not part of the buildings that would be for consideration?
I would think it would be, I don't know off the top of my head, it's solar potential. I think the library roof has a lot of mechanical stuff up there, so it may not,
That's not a very
It's not.
surface area wise.
yeah, it may not be a great spot,
Building,
Yeah,
I think.
we can check into it.
but
though.
yeah.
And I don't know what they replaced because sometimes buildings have different sections of roof and they don't replace the whole roof at once because they're different ages. So I just don't know what the scope of that project was. We'll find out.
Not so much for this body, but I think the town should have, as they replace roofs, they should be looking at their solar potentials and potentially building solar into those roof projects on any municipal building going forward. Obviously, we have the technical skills to help them evaluate and look at that,
Mhm,
advise, but
mhm.
it's more of a town
Yeah.
initiative.
It's come up a couple times and it's been unclear what the
It's-
potential is and
It's definitely, we did a preliminary analysis
Okay.
years ago. Joe Conway has it. in terms of the first pass, and they've been chipping away, but it's really like, we met with Mike on the Galvin, and it's really his lead. There were concerns about the way he was approaching it, and we need to stay, we'll help with a incentive rebate of whatever we can offer, and, but that whole thing was a little different, so.
I'm looking at the roof now. There's a lot of stuff on there, but
Of the library, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably worth it to ask the question, to
yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
could definitely.
reassess it just to make sure that it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Anything else? Hearing not, let's move on then to the approval of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes, the March 6th meeting with the 3 of us who were there with the school department and as well as our regular March 6th board meeting and a March 20th board meeting.
I did get some comments, they are included.
But I would, just on the March 6th, WPS, I was not in attendance. That,
Oh, I didn't even see that.
I,
Yeah.
I wanted to be.
I also I wasn't sure if Amy Lehman was there. Was she there?
Joe, was she on a sign-in sheet?
Did I just miss it?
She might not have been there. That I went, I kind of wrote down who was there, and I checked the email as far as who was there as well. I don't remember seeing a sign-in sheet for it, but if somebody has a sign-in sheet, then we can adjust that.
I could email Julie just to see if she recalls too, or one of us could. She might remember, but yeah, when I looked at it, I didn't remember Amy being there.
Okay. Well, so we can either hold off and approve this.
We can edit that if we find, there's no sense holding it. We can edit her off if we find out she wasn't there. I'll make a call and we can ask.
Right.
The,
Perfect, okay. Any other comments on that particular meeting minutes?
No, that was my only, I only put that one in it.
Okay. And the March 6th board meeting? The only question that I had on all of these was just that one, that first vote was 4-0, but I went back and saw the video and I knew that Elton abstained from voting for that one because that was to approve the minutes of the February 7th meeting. Correct, 4-0. I didn't have any other edits on any of the minutes.
They should be here.
Okay. Very well, all right. So I'll entertain a motion then. We can do one package motion to approve all the minutes if we're gonna do it that way.
I will make a motion to approve. Looking at all these in order. The March 6th energy reduction plan and capital planning for WPS minutes. The commissioners meeting minutes on March 6th as well, and the March 20th strategic planning meeting.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Very well, thank you. And that brings us to Pete and an update on the energy park.
yeah, so all the approvals that we need to begin construction are in place. There will be. Dave, are we gonna stop at the end of this week or the beginning of next week? With
Next,
the driveway?
now, next week we'll start doing the driveway on Monday.
Okay, and then tree removal will begin at the end of next week or the beginning of the following week.
Yeah, it probably will be by the middle of next week. Bill, the mayor will be in there.
So, we have all our approvals. We met with the DPW's, advisory committee, and they were the final step we needed to take to start this part of the project. They've approved the drainage plan, I mean, the stormwater runoff plan, and, we're ready to go. So we'll start to see movement up there very soon. In terms of equipment ordering, Dave, we're just finalizing the contract with the battery, right? Everything else is pretty much along.
Yes, correct. Yep, everything else is ordered. All the long lead time items are ordered, and we have our dates on those. The battery, we're finalizing the battery arrangements. The battery is, once we have a full commitment on the contract with them, it's a 1 year contractual in service, but they've been tracking earlier than a year.
Yeah, so our goal is to get the battery in hopefully before next summer so that we could also use it for the peak prior to the schools even opening. We could potentially run it next summer with, as a load, as a load shedding and capacity resource.
Was that Dave's idea?
No,
That was your idea? You're taking credit? Great.
It's a good
Is there
idea.
anything, I'm sorry, about that project that we need to know about, something that's not on schedule? Anything that we need to be aware of?
not right now. We've been able to move everything to on schedule as of this time.
Excellent.
Well, and that's a major milestone to actually put shovels in the ground next week.
And we received bids today for the cleanup. Part of it obviously is finishing our obligations for the other side of the agreement, which includes Ballister Street and the planting. The DPW has approved the planting to take place in the fall rather than now, so trees don't just dry out in the summer. And then Ballister, we have the quotes in today for the site cleanup work that needs to start that process. So hopefully that'll be taking place in the June, early July timeframe, and probably gonna have at least a portion of the work converting into the passive space done in the fall. Finalization might not take place till early next year, but we're gonna have a good portion of that whole site converted over by the fall.
And we're applying for additional grant funding from various sources for that project as well, but
We're continuing to, yeah.
Okay.
We did not receive the second gas infrastructure grant that we applied for, which would have included Main Street from Green out to the Melrose line and a lot of side streets over there. We didn't receive that this year. We're gonna continue work in that area, but we will apply again next year to see if we can get more funding for at least some of that work going forward. In the meantime, the bids were out for the materials for the grant that we have for the Water Street, Otis, Crescent, that whole area from the grant we got last year. Material bids came in today. Everything seems to be in order. Construction bids will go out first week of June, and so we expect to be working on that by August 1st. So that whole grant project is moving along, and we expect that to be underway by the beginning of August, and hopefully wrap that up before the end of the year. If not, we'll be substantially complete. If the weather kills us, it might stretch a little longer, but we'll be mostly done before the end of the year.
Say why we didn't get the other
They-
grant?
they gave
Did they
some
provide
comment.
any feedback?
I think the biggest thing was that we were too small and they wanted to give bigger chunks of money away, so. It cost them just as much to administer our 1.4 million as it does 10 million, so they I think last year they wanted to get as many awards out as possible. This year, we were kind of a little tiny thing, so they but But they said, you know, and they gave some suggestions about other things that they could do in the app, but I mean, I think mostly it was, we were small. They wanted to give away bigger chunks. Need them more, so.
Sure, we would have taken a bigger chunk.
Well,
I know, right?
yeah, I mean,
Sure.
That,
so where we are in our gas distribution system is Main Street's the last big main road. A lot of the rest of what we have to, the Water Street project will finish all our cast iron. We'll have 0 cast iron left. And in terms of bare steel, we'll be under 10 miles. And of that, the only major chunk that's left is from Green Street to the Melrose line on terms of main roadways.
mhm.
Everything else is side streets, cut through streets, ties, you know, so. So that, you know, we can look at that. You know, Raven's kind of reviewing the feedback from the grant and see if we can get some, you know, we'll apply again next year. Doesn't hurt. You have 5 years to use it once you're awarded, so. But we're moving, so. But the good news is that the existing program we've been working on is, you know, again, we're down to one main roadway after Water Streets.
Great, thanks. So the next item is the community solar.
Yeah.
So as you're aware, Ken's not gonna be available. He's gonna have to go into rehab after he broke a bone, so he's not gonna be able to attend a ribbon cutting anytime right away. So it seems to me that we should just postpone that until we get a better sense of his diagnosis and his schedule for rehab. I mean, meanwhile, it's operating, and so that's the important part. Pete, you want to give any update?
Yeah, on the signups right now, we're basically fully allocated on the non-low income side. We have, I think, 78 people that have agreed to participate, and they're given either those that asked for more, we were able to give them a second one. We took 3 KW off the low income side to just make that even, so we reduced that by 3. As of right now, through the first and second solicitations, we're up to 8 KW on the low income side. But we still have basically 21 left. We were gonna suggest that we wait till the end of June or like later into June, see if we can solicit more on the low income side. If we don't get there, we have the option to go back and resolicit the existing customers on the non-low income side that had asked for more than 1 and got 2. If there were some that said they wanted 3, 4, or 5. So one source we could go to is reallocate some more of the low income to those folks and give them potentially a third KW if they still wanted it. So we have some flexibility right now.
But as do that, can we just ask the town on the low income for where the town, because I don't know if it's Hartsville or the other. The town pays part of the bill to see if the town.
Solicited we sent a special letter just to the senior housing to those locations.
To those, okay, but to the town paid meters though?
We can ask if they want.
Yeah, so the town, you know, because I know. In my understanding, there is a low income housing that the town is responsible for the meters or meter. I don't know if it's multiple. Is see if the town would like, you know, a chunk or all of those for those low income.
Mhm.
Because I think that would have would it be the intended purpose of the low income?
So basically, we're almost full, like, there's 21 KW left. It's in the low income bucket. We'll reach out on that, see if they would want that. And then, if not, we could solicit it from the rest and see. I'm sure we can be fully subscribed by July if we want to be.
In the meantime, what's happening with that chunk?
It just
Is it just going back to the grid?
yeah, and
Okay.
well, it reduces our purchase
Right.
of power from Emma. You know?
Okay. Just
So the customers are getting the benefit, however.
right, one
slightly.
way or the other, yeah. Okay.
In April, not so much, but May, we're getting a little better. It's like,
April was rough solar month.
So in any case, yeah, I mean, so it's not going away, it's going onto the system, so it's reducing,
Okay.
So that's where we stand on that. So we'll wait to hear on that. We're working on the plaque and all that. So, we will, we'll wait on hold for scheduling a date. If we don't end up doing it in June, we might want to do it in early September or something. I don't know if we want to try to do it in July or August. We'll have to see. So
Yeah, but we'll just wait and see, I guess.
we'll wait and see how he's doing. And it'd be good to do it when he can be there, enjoy it, and have as many people as he wants to be there. So we'll play it by ear.
Great. Okay, next order of business is the general manager goals document and the final revision to that.
Yeah.
So the document that you included in here, Pete, that was your final version prior to Sharon's edits, or?
I think this was the one that Sharon sent me.
Okay,
This is the one that, so Sharon, after the last meeting, Sharon made some final, we had a couple of discussions, then you made the final edit, so this was the last version that I had. It was following the last meeting where we talked about it,
okay,
but this should be the final.
okay.
I know it did take out the stuff we talked about with, the reason I believe it's the one, because it's the EV fleet stuff reflected the conversation we had in the last meeting.
Yeah. And are you satisfied, Sharon, with this
Yeah,
final version?
the only change was just basically a clarification on page 4, section B4, financial goals around number 5, manage account receivables. So I think it just, so I just changed some of the language, and I think, Pete and Mark were okay with that, so they accepted that, so it was just days revenue and accounts receivable greater than 30 days. And I think there was something about trends that they removed. Yeah.
The fear we have is that it could be a trend over the winter, and so rather than, we just kept it at that.
Okay.
Sharon, is it possible for you to briefly summarize your changes? Or are there a lot of them?
No, that was
Just this
it.
one
Just
change.
that one?
Yeah, from the
okay.
last meeting.
From the last version we saw.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, got it. I thought there were more.
And it was more of a removal of the word trends and then, I think it said greater than or equal to 30 days, and it just, I just changed it to greater than 30 days.
Okay.
Those are the only two minor
Yep.
changes.
All right. I don't know that we need to vote
I
on it.
think so.
We already voted on it.
Yeah.
It's just editing the final document, so as long as we're all satisfied, there's no issue with it. We'll just let it go. Thank you. And the next order of business then is strategic planning. We didn't have any homework this time for today's meeting, so.
So the only homework was, I had agreed to, tweak the draft. In terms of sequence of some of these, and I did move a couple of them around. I didn't add or delete anything. I thought a couple of them flowed better, trying to think. I think we had like gas peak load after reduced gas usage. I switched those. There were a couple that logistically I just swapped. But what we agreed to in terms of a calendar on this was that we would, you could still review this, and we agreed to kind of settle on it by the June meeting, and then staff will use the summer to try to build a timeline out for this and kind of build like a, this is a, this year an ongoing thing. This is we'll get to this in 3 to 5 years. This is, so build some kind of a time frame on this after the June meeting, so we will use the summer for that. So that's kind of, I think, what we agreed to in terms of a plan going forward.
Yep. Okay.
So by moving the order around, was that an attempt to prioritize?
Also sequence them a little bit better. Like, again, as the example, reducing the peak load is reducing overall gas usage is a priority, but reducing the peak load is a higher priority, because that has direct impact on cost and everything right away, so.
Right.
Trying to think of what other ones.
We also moved up, monitor the progression of electrification in Wakefield.
Yeah, I think I tweaked a few of them around just because they felt like they made more sequential sense to me. But you guys can digest it for another month, and then we can just agree to finalize it in June. And then staff will work over the summer to kind of build a kind of a macro schedule for it.
Fine with me.
Just, I have a question. So about the goals and initiatives, what's the time frame for the plan? Did we say 7 years? Did we say 10
I
years?
think we said 7 to 10, so a few of them might lead toward like a 10-year. I think mostly in my mind, a lot of this is gonna be like towards 2030, so it's gonna be more on the 7-year side.
Okay,
I haven't really studied it too much to know whether some of them might make sense. Some of them are gonna be ongoing too.
Yeah.
So it's gonna vary by goal, so.
I think we were debating between 5 and 10 and then settled on 7. And, but to Pete's point, I think some will be 5 years, some will be 10, and,
And some will be.
some are just always ongoing, right?
Right, exactly.
Evaluating.
Yeah, and so we'll try to reflect that in some kind of chart that kind of shares some ongoing things, some initiatives we might not start. Like reducing gas peak, we've already started that, and we want to keep working on that right from now. And, so other things like that we might slide in future years, but a lot of it is gonna be ongoing, so.
Be interesting to put Joe's Gantt chart skills to use, put this in a Gantt chart.
Might have to drag Vinny in on that one. I'm not sure. Joe, have you had to do Gantt charts yet?
Oh, I've done it all.
All right. Then
Oh, challenge.
Sounds like you volunteered then.
Whatever you throw at me. That's my motto.
All right.
Excellent. Okay, good. So that brings us to the DPU annual report.
Yep. We got a copy and everybody.
Everybody had a copy of it? Okay. So annually, this report is put together and filed with the Department of Public Utilities. Embodied in the report, this is a 12/31 December year-end report. Embodied in the report is both financial and statistical information. On the financial side, there's the basics that you would normally see. There's a balance sheet, and there's an income statement, there's detailed plant information. And on the statistical side, there's other items, number of kilowatts sold, number cubic feet of gas sold on the gas side, the number of meters connected to the system. There's also distribution statistics, such as, the diameter, the type, and the length of gas mains and services that we have in the gas distribution system. There's also, on the electric side, you'd find the number of poles that we have, and lengths of conductors and wires. There's transformation statistics in there. There's substation information in there. So it's a fairly comprehensive report of all of our operations. And again, it's prepared on a calendar year, not a June 30 year end. So on the financial side, the numbers per se at 12, so they're not, this report is not audited, but all of the financial information is audited at one point. And you've got a copy of the audit anyway, so it is included here. So the ask as of today for tonight is, to execute the DPU report, sign off on it, in other words. So I can go ahead and send it in. Jack had asked in the past, it was due to be filed March 31 of every year in the past. And during COVID, they had extended that indefinitely because people just weren't filing them on time. So they came out and extended it till September. I figured they'd do something intermediate rather than, like June or something, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
said
Wow.
September. So that's so we're, a few
We're
months,
from a couple months behind to we're 3.5 months ahead.
and I still do it the same time of year. You know what I mean? So.
Well, like I say, I don't think anyone over there even looks at these things. I think.
They go in a big room. I did meet one guy once. There was a guy on the gas side, I forget his name, he was in like gas transmission, but he showed up one day. And he wanted to sit down and talk to us about our gas system, and he was quoting the annual report. I'm like, you're the guy who reads it? And
That
he's
guy.
laughing, he's like, I might be the only guy who reads it.
I mean, I read a little bit of it. I didn't go through line by line, Mark, but
Put a lot of work into that, Tom.
all right, I will.
Constellation DPU also has to do their own annual report.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So they're not,
Feds don't read that one, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
They just take all these and staple them together. And here you go.
Here you go. If you're looking for anything, it's in there. So,
Yes.
But from time to time, there are, it is used for, comparative purposes, benchmarking, if you wanted to go on the DPU's website, you could pull up any Muni's, DPU report, look at it and say, how many meters are there in each community, that type, it's
Asset value, all of
the
it.
type of stuff, yep.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I did notice on the page 3,
Mhm.
should my name be added? Or
Huh,
should I be replacing Philip because
yeah,
it is for the year ending?
Yeah.
2023?
see,
That makes sense.
that was a fail on my part. I got it on the signature page, though.
Yes, you did.
Got the town councilors.
I actually,
Yes,
We got the new town councilors.
I looked them up on the website the other day, so, but I will make that change. See, now I'm embarrassed.
Wow, yeah, so
But would,
But should the
What-
town councilors,
so yeah, I was saying, if this is from
Like,
just ending December 31st,
yeah,
2023, I would say the new counselors,
shouldn't be?
be on there.
Who the old counselors?
you took out, it would have been Julie
Yeah, Julie
and,
comes off,
yeah, so it'd be
Doug comes off,
Doug and John.
Doug and John.
And it'd be,
Ernie,
and it's Julie's
Calvin, and,
and Danahy.
okay. Yeah, if I make it one change, I can change those two. Everybody else is right?
Yeah, and then they would be obviously for this year,
Yep.
so save this page for next
Yeah.
year.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so with those changes, is there a motion?
Do we need to sign anything for it, or is?
Yes, I have the sign.
Oh, you.
I make a motion to approve the Department of Public Utilities Annual Report for calendar year 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you for that, Mark.
There's 3 copies.
Oh, thank you. It's afterwards too. I don't know that do you want
Good
to?
job, Mark, you forgot the new commissioner.
I know. I was gonna say I had Joey proofread it, but.
Wow.
Come under the bus.
You're trying to take me down with you, Mark. All right.
Bill keeps disappearing from the
Yeah.
screen. I think
You can
he's,
tell he's paying attention, though.
I think he's watching Bruins game.
Bruins game
No,
hasn't
that's
started
not
yet.
till 8, don't worry.
Oh, is he? Okay.
We gotta, how many minutes until we wrap up? 31?
Never starts on time anyway.
Yeah, there was like 10 or.
All right, so, and while I have the floor, one more quick thing. So, everybody got a copy of the annual audit, which was presented to us, by Zach from, Markham in November, December, when was it?
Mhm.
So, yes.
They're all missing was the-
We're always missing the pension information. We're there's a lag with the town, so it happened in, last month, and so. Got you.
Great, thank you.
That's finalized, so, and they'll be out again soon, so.
Super.
Thank you.
All right, so the next order of business, Jen asked me to put this on to discuss the MWIC annual meeting that took place last week. Jen, you want to take it away?
Sure. Well, for one thing, we got an award, which
We
was
did.
really awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
Prominent display.
Yep.
I actually have it out on because it's an MLD award, not just one person, so I've been keeping it out there.
Yeah, did you send like an email around to all the staff and just say, hey, guys, this happened, thank you?
We shared it.
Okay.
Everyone got to hold it and run around the town.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
no, it's actually a good talking point. I didn't say anything I came back that afternoon and I put it there and I didn't say anything, and then we talked about it on Fridays.
Oh, like a big staff meeting?
Yeah, we have our staff meeting on Friday.
I would like to say officially congratulations to the entire department for that, because it's well deserved to
Very much so, yeah.
be recognized
Yeah.
amongst our peers.
Yeah.
And we're running out of space on our credenza, so.
Yeah. I've already talked about building a built-in. It was gonna take over a little bit of Mark's office, but it's all right. We need it.
Or we could just put a shelf, but
No, I think the built-in would be better. I told him I was gonna take a tape measure out and see how much space I could.
Yeah. I come in one morning and my office is gonna be moved.
That's gonna be moved against away from the wall a little bit.
So the other thing I wanted to do is just debrief on the presentations, and if there are things that we want to talk about a little bit further. One thing in particular, I wanted to just hear, so we do not discuss these things, obviously, in the actual conference. We sit separately, we don't discuss these, so we were not able to yet reconnect on some of the presentations. And one that I thought was interesting was the new residential battery storage program. So I wanted to just get a quick sense of how this, we have a different program in place now.
Okay.
And what this program is. There was also a separate presentation on electric vehicle to grid technology and like the status of all of that. So that's basically mobile storage. So there's stationary storage, mobile storage, and then our current program, and just kind of get a pulse on where people think what people's thoughts are on all of that. And we can also we can discuss it further at a future meeting if we need more time to think, but.
Yeah, do you want to bring up other topics or just start with these?
Let's bring up other topics too. What do people want to discuss? And then we can talk about how to. That debrief.
So I'll just, in addition to the battery storage presentations and how and the vehicle to grid presentation and how that might fit into our offerings. I thought it was interesting that they did a presentation on their revamped website. And I was speaking to the presenters, Carol Martucci and Jason Rosenthal from MWIC, and they were telling me about the vendor that they used, Nectar, KNECTOR from Northampton. And they, so I don't know if we've been in contact with them or if we would be interested. They said they would be happy to make an introduction. And they would be useful in mapping out the site and, suggesting improvements. They said that the biggest sticking point for their website update was uploading automated reports. So meter data reports were the biggest hurdle. But if we have more static data.
Yeah, so
Not a problem.
their presentation was mostly on the member facing website.
Yes.
So, yeah. So there's different goals between that. And so one of the things we agreed to do on our goals and objectives this year is to do like a kind of a focus group to find out, like, so I think the work we're doing right now is to plan for that, and probably in the fall, get a representative to share and run it like a focus group, and maybe a third party would actually run the meeting
Mhm.
and talk about our site, but also ideas and like to try to, again, in my opinion, websites are the beauties in the eye of the beholder and.
Yeah.
And so I think getting feedback from within the town of what, interested parties might want to see before we embark on a
Right.
redesign and remap. And so that's kind of where so that's why I was strongly suggesting that for this year's goal, and then work on, based on the output of that, some recommendations for changes to it that we would work on next year.
Yeah.
So that's,
I just bring it up because, they could be a resource and, they did a good job, I thought, on the website, their website, so something to consider for the future. And then I was also interested in the retail analytics discussion. So one of the presenters, was, Zoe Eckert from MWIC talked about, analytics that they were doing around increasing forecast accuracy, on the distribution system, where they were using the data to shape electrification projects where the distribution system can handle them. Also around time of use rates and rate structure strategies, and also program validation. So the connected homes, the EV scheduled charging, and electrification impact assessments. So just wondering, what the potential would be for us in terms of doing a deeper dive on analytics and what the potential could be for
some of that,
value.
yeah, I mean, some of it I felt like was the information that was shared applied more to like the big guys than us, because we're not sitting on like, in some portion, like we don't have overloaded circuits, and so we have to focus like things and programs in certain areas, but at a macro level, the information was interesting. There's a possibility for data overload too, in terms of like, how much is of value, so I guess the question would be like, at the end of the year, as we talk about the programs that we want to look, enhance, reduce next year, like if there's stuff in there that you guys would like to see, that's the place that I thought there might be the most value.
Mhm.
Out of that, I found it interesting that they were just asking for the data from us, from the meter data. And then they would, run the retail analytics around that. What was unclear to me was some of the goals around, what questions are we gonna ask of the data? And
That's-
what might be interesting, if we are thinking about, time of use, what would their analytics look like? If they're willing to take our data and then do analysis on it,
Well,
assuming there isn't a fee to do that, because they're looking to do that. But if, they're looking to have the data, if we can give them the data and then they make suggestions out of it, that might be all right. Was kind of unclear of
do you,
how the structure of all of that look like, is there a cost from MLEC?
Well,
I know it's built in.
the way it would work is they would create a cost area and they would charge their time to that area, and then we would get billed for that time.
So
So it's not like they're bidding on it or anything like that, but if we asked them, if we asked them specifically, they would charge Wakefield for that time specifically that they spent on it.
and is this to your question, it seems like it's a service that they would provide because they have the capabilities, whereas smaller utilities might not.
Right, and so they offer a lot of services like that, and members don't subscribe. For example, simplest example, like, we process our own rebates here. They do that service for other munis, but we do it locally. Shauna, all the rebate forms come to us. We process those forms, we validate them, and we apply the bill credit here. They do that for other players. So this is another thing, service like that. So we can choose this, but I kind of agree with Tom. We want to be more sure about, it's a service they provide, but what do we hope to get out of that data?
That's the question.
Yeah,
One thing, and they mentioned was, 50% of energy costs are coming from the 13 hours of, the peak hour per year. And if we already have a handle on when that is, and we can, forecast that and anticipate that, then that's not a service that we need, but
right. Well, we're pretty typical, so I don't think we vary off. I think we haven't, our peak hasn't not been coincident with, is only in the past 3 years, I don't think we've been non-coincident with them, but 2 or 3 times. So in other words, they forecast the peak time, and when they do, we run our units, and so, just prior to that, we're coincident, but then we run our units to go down. So in terms of our actual peak, where we've moved it somewhere else, but the reality is we trend with them pretty much all the time until we put our units in. So, you follow what I'm saying? Like, we're never fully coincident with them because we're running at the time that we would be peaking, you know what I mean? But that's why we do it, so.
So they look at the system peak, right, the regional peak, and then there's our own town, but the units run for the regional peak, not our.
not our system peak.
Because our system peaked,
It's not fully coincident with.
well, not anymore because
Yeah.
we run the units during that time.
Yeah,
On the virtual power plant stuff, I thought it was, interesting. Potentially, technology is maturing. I don't know, we're all there yet with, especially with some of the vehicle to grid, but to Jen's point, the battery program was interesting to me. The one thing that I kind of had difficulty absorbing is the impact and desire from a non-solar customer to put it in. I just can't see the driver for a non-solar customer. Their benefit is for outages, which just don't happen in MLPs. The average mass customer of 7.6 hours out in a year just isn't applicable in an MLP. So I think we would get laughed at if we were like,
That's the
Well,
selling point.
And
That's the-
because they want to recoup the money over 3 years, which means it's $100 a month
yeah.
pay-in for that, which is quite high.
There's
If it was
a,
spread out more, it could be
Yeah.
$20 a month. That's a little more level funded, but
but
$100 is a
the
lot.
reality is, my bigger concerns were, we're going into the appliance business and we don't want to do that. We don't want to own batteries in people's houses.
Mm.
B, what happens if a house burns down? Which is, they cited as a concern because all the fire departments have to sign off. Well, if we're that worried about the fire department signing off, why do we want to put our name on it? So those are some big concerns. Honestly, I'd rather pay more and have somebody else own it that chose to own it and I don't think Wakefield Gas and Light should be in the owning the unit business. That's, utilities got out of the appliance business a long time ago. They don't want to be in that business. And so this in essence would be in the appliance business and we don't want to, I don't think that's a good business move for us. There's too much risk and too little reward.
And just as a program, it just doesn't seem like there would be a lot of uptake for this. Like if the target customer is really advanced technology adopters who would likely have solar so they can mimic the,
Essentially net metering.
shaving
Yeah.
of the IOUs, then that's a very small
Mhm.
group of customers.
So again, my view would be, I'd rather give a larger like a larger rebate and let it all be on the customer side. We'll give you more rebate as long as we can tie in, like the car chargers, you know. We'll give you, if we wanted to do it, we could do a cost ben analysis and figure out the right number, but keeping us out of the middle of that would be really the most important thing.
Yeah, and even if someone didn't have solar, maybe somebody might want a battery, but then that's only if you have time of use rates, so that they can be charging it at a certain rate.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't have that, so. But they want to do a pilot, so I don't know who's gonna step up, but they wanted what, five homes?
Yeah.
Well, they wanted a constrained circuit, which we also don't
Yeah.
have for the pilots.
True, yeah.
Five homes on a constrained circuit.
Yeah, our highest loaded circuit last summer was 53% of rating, so.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, so we're not ideal for that.
No,
But I'm very interested in the V to G, because everybody has cars. And eventually a lot of them will be electric. So I'm interested, it sounds like they don't have a residential V to G right now, but I'm interested in kind of tracking.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll keep
develops.
monitoring.
Yeah,
I think what they said and what I'm interested in is, as a town, if we could ever encourage a bus entity to come here that wants to charge overnight and park their buses out on Audubon Road or somewhere at municipal rates, that we could even incent to be time of use rates, you know,
that makes sense.
you know, that's a huge win. So that's the kind,
our economic development person know that that's.
I've mentioned it way in the
concern.
past, but yeah, but I mean, that,
Probably should raise it just
Yeah.
so they can be thinking.
Yeah,
in
because
case
that-
something comes
to me,
up.
that would be the, you know, our rates are really good. We have some potential sites who could do that. And we could also, our time of use rate might be perfect for the situation, depending on how long a bus takes to charge in the overnight, you know. We could be a great place for that.
so that was one of the use cases, I think, that
Yeah,
they
the
talked
buses.
about. They talked about school buses. They talked about DPW, maybe trash pickup. Because those ones, you know, there's they might be right candidate. And then vehicle to microgrid for dealerships. One thing I was thinking of was commercial fleets. We have a UPS depot?
It's actually in Linfield.
Oh, it's in
Yeah,
Linfield.
it's just.
They drive through our streets, but
Oh,
they're not actually here.
We have a landscaping company, right?
Yeah, but.
But it's
that's-
small.
It's two vans.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Okay,
We have small business.
Yeah,
fleet,
yeah.
If you want to call it a fleet.
Yeah,
okay.
On the time of use rate, if we are ever going down one of the things that I think we struggle with is how do we communicate and educate customers on, when things should be on or off. And I was talking to Dan from Chicopee. And he was like, they were talking about that. He was out in California at PG&E territory. And he was like, I don't know why no one's thought of this here. It's like, it's really simple. There's a magnet on the fridge that's connected by Wi-Fi, and the magnet's very simple, and it's just red, yellow, green for this hour and the hour ahead. It just simply was dictating that the electrical rate is high, red, and the next hour is green. And those folks on the time of use rate, he was like, it was fascinating when he was visiting. They were like, they looked at the fridge, they're like, oh, it's red, I'm not gonna run the dishwasher. Next hour is green, we'll wait, we'll set the dishwasher. So I had never even heard of a device like that. I know myself typically kind of lean towards the Internet of Things, the thermostats that are communicating and having that bidirectional understanding. Well, if you just have the one little thing that's very simple, red, yellow, and green.
Yeah, you don't have to even.
You don't have to have all the device. It doesn't matter what device, like you just kind of know. So just things to potentially think about if we're ever looking at, broader time of use rates, that there are devices that are connected, make things simple. And I think that's our biggest challenge with time of use is understanding
Well, that's one of the challenges. The other huge challenge is life, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Again, so you're gonna tell mom and dad that have to feed their kid at 7 o'clock because they just got home from practice and they gotta have the uniform clean for tomorrow that, oh, by the way, you gotta stay up till 11 before you can do any of that. So those are the things about the time use rates that are challenging. Whereas the EV side is simple. You can program it and forget it, you know, versus the lifestyle stuff. It gets very, very.
It's messy quickly, yeah, and I agree with that. It just was like, you know, for me, I think about all the things that could be connected, you know, do you have to have your dryer connected? Do you have to have your dishwasher connected? Whereas, you know, there potentially is a simple tool that exists out there.
On the vehicle, to grid in the vehicle to grid conversation. They mentioned during the presentation that in the next year, all major light duty auto manufacturers are offering bi-directional vehicles. Which will basically open up the potential. And in the future, instead of having the bi-directional inverter on board the car, will be on board in the car instead of the charger. So that's something to consider, you know.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
There's more opportunity.
there's gonna be more opportunity.
Yeah.
That was interesting to me how few cars are actually, you know, have that bi-directional.
Yeah.
functionality.
The light and in the passenger class, it's really the Lightning, the Ford Lightning and.
Well, the Lightning isn't even truly,
Yeah.
BMW.
it's
Oh, no.
be to home. The Lightning doesn't work with this
Vita Grid.
Oh, yeah.
Be to grid. It's only, they have a proprietary
So it goes to.
thing. It just goes to the house.
Yeah.
It's the lights on so the girl can skate in front of her grandfather.
Yeah.
What?
You never saw the Super Bowl commercial? That was a commercial for the Lightning. This girl is skating and her grandfather couldn't be there, so they drive the Lightning to his house and they put the lights on the Lightning. And then she skates.
Priority.
You never saw the commercial?
No, and you know what's funny? I never saw the Super Bowl this year, and I finally was just going through like 2 days ago. I'm like, what is all this? I'm like, Super Bowl, 3.5 hours gone.
Oh,
I never even saw it.
DVR.
Yeah, it was one of the Super Bowl commercials.
That's funny.
Yeah, I didn't realize about the Lightning that it wasn't truly
It's only
G, it's V.
Bi-directional at home.
For that one, that it can't support the larger grid where
Yeah.
like the Nissan Leaf can, and what was the other one? Oh, it was the V9, which is a,
Nissan Leaf and most school buses are bi-directional, but the Ford F-150 is only bi-directional at home. That's very limiting.
yeah.
Right.
He's point, I think, is the bus, is the.
The bus is gonna be,
Yeah.
in terms of Vita Grid and value, those are the kind of things that are gonna be. And if we have like the UPS, if it was in our
Yeah,
territory, that's the kind of place
Yeah.
that we don't even have the postal vehicles anymore. They're out of Uber now.
oh,
Yeah.
Pete, on the vehicle to grid, is there, I mean, obviously you have to isolate the home from the grid if you plug into the home. Have they come up with, I mean, it's standard just like a generator or solar or, you know, so it can't feed back to the grid. So it's, as the vehicles move around and people purchase vehicles, they have to upgrade their electric system too. You know, their panel, I would think.
Yeah, Fermata, they had that kind of built into their model for whether it's the commercial buses or for the home as part of their charger, I guess you call it. It's really more complex than a charger. Might call it an interface more so, and to dictate whether it's going to grid or coming from grid, but there is the backfeed preventer that you would see on, a generator.
Yeah.
So they did talk about that a little bit. I don't think it's on this presentation, but
Well, we already have the time of use rate, so that provides the incentive, the
Right.
monetary
Yeah.
incentive. So it's like we've got some pieces,
Right.
pieces that.
And honestly,
really
we would
make
have
that
the
organized.
flexibility to modify. If we learned that we had a bus company or a fleet company that needed a slight tweak to the hours, we could analyze that and decide. Because I think we said 4 to 9 right now, but if it needed to fully charge and we needed to say 4 to 8, we'd probably feel comfortable with that. You know, those are kind of things you could play with a little bit and.
How do we,
Yeah.
and outside of the business develop, like, how do we market that as a, you know? Cause I would even think, for you brought up the post office, you know, and I know that they brought their fleet from Wakefield to Woburn, and we do know that the post office is electrifying their fleet. Maybe that is something that we talk to them about, they bring it back here. I would think that that would be advantageous.
Unfortunately, it's not
Yeah.
a Wakefield decision, it's
Yeah.
a.
I know it was at the
Federal,
post office,
yeah.
federal, but, you know, just looking at that, at a,
So our Dropbox in Lafayette Street, we wanted to say, could you physically move it 3 feet? So we'll pour a pad and we'll actually put bolts for your thing and we're just gonna fix the place, but we just need you to physically move it for like 2 days so we can pour a pad, put bolts and you can put and their answer to that was to move it across the street. They didn't want to deal with it, so they moved it across the street.
Really?
Yeah, have you seen the mailbox?
Yeah,
I haven't been by in a while.
Yeah, no, I know.
Our Dropbox.
I moved across the street.
It moved across the street because we needed to dig it up and they didn't want to deal with moving it for like 4 feet, so they moved it across the street instead.
Wow. Yes.
So getting to move the fleet back to Wakefield, I'm not overly optimistic.
Yeah, I was just using that as an example, but you know, at a micro level that.
Yeah,
That,
Or attracting new fleets,
right.
new businesses.
Well, I think that's the conversation we had. I mean, maybe we could get buses on Audubon Road, but there's other sites on Audubon Road that they could probably,
yeah,
park,
Well, I still think the post office is a great place for a big parking lot.
Well, I mean, I think it's letting the economic development person know of where, locate, whatever information you can
Yeah.
give, like good location.
Get rid of it.
Once there's V2G technology, it's letting people know, right? If they own businesses, they'll come up with ideas and they can bring them forward. As long as they're aware that the technology is there.
I think the macro, have a meeting with her, Joe, we should probably set it up where we meet with the town's economic development and just share our time, even our time of use EV rate and talk about different ideas, because I think it might be a valuable tool to her.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
not even necessarily, and maybe this ties into the website, but is there a space that we could advertise that, hey, we have a time of use EV rate. We would be interested in working with, a fleet company, like a bus company, that we have opportunities, contact us.
I think it would be better to do it through her, because she's the one with that outward face. Putting it on our website will just be more clutter. I think if we
Yeah, no one will
share,
find it.
share that information with her, because she's actively doing that,
Just kind of figuring out how to get the word out.
Well, and she's working with the town too on what the town is willing to tolerate. So
Right.
you kind of need that interface.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
What's the situation with the school buses? Do we
We
have?
Wakefield doesn't.
Contract with?
Yeah,
I
it's
think so.
contracted out, but
Yeah.
somewhere, they go somewhere else, right? And they.
Yeah.
Correct. Wakefield owned only 2 or 3 of the like shorter buses. And I generally think they're parked between the Woodville and high school. I think there's, maybe a total of 3 or 4 of them. The larger buses that, run and pick up the kids, it's a contract with, I don't know who that.
I forget who it's with, and they're not electric right now.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. So that would be where, that entity, where do they park their buses? That would be the opportunity potentially.
Okay.
Do we have car dealers in Wakefield?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
We do,
Subaru.
right?
Yeah.
And actually,
There are a few.
the one on,
Liberty, yeah.
okay, yeah,
But Mazda.
Chevy,
Yeah.
yeah,
Liberty.
but actually, that's served by Reading. that building is served by Reading.
A lot of them are on the periphery, so I wasn't sure if they're served
No,
by.
the Subaru dealership,
And then next door, there's the,
yeah, that site is served by us.
okay.
That would be interesting to approach them because
Yeah, it's actually one owner.
Subaru does have a couple of EV models now for this, which one was?
I don't think any of them are E to G just yet though, right? Or maybe they're
Yeah.
coming out.
No, I don't think the Subaru was
It's-
listed as
Yeah.
one, but that may be somewhere to, with this platform or a platform like it.
So Reading serves all those homes over there too?
Yeah, that street they serve.
What about, you know, where the, shoot, what's it called? Convenience store, at the end of the lake there.
Cumberland
Cumberland Farms. So the other Cumberland Farms, that's also in Wakefield, but,
That's,
and then there's like Line Road and some other
yeah,
roads.
that's already.
That's all-
So we bill the residential customers over there, but we buy it wholesale from Reading.
Oh, okay.
They maintain the line. That's the way that's structured.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So who reads the meters? Do we read the meters or do they
We
read?
read the meters,
Oh, okay.
and then we submit the reads to them, but they also have a primary meter that they bill us the primary meter.
Oh, okay. Well. That's the only place where we have that arrangement, right?
Yeah, there's a few others up on the Stoneham and Melrose line that are complete customers of National Grid.
Yeah.
They're 100% National Grid customers. We don't serve them.
There's only one other thing I wanted to ask about. You asked a question about cost of service studies.
Yeah, I was surprised that they offered that service because
Yeah.
we did, our first cost of service study was just before, when since I've been on the board, was just before you got on board and we used La Capra. And then when you came on, I think we had them,
We had.
Updated.
We updated it, yeah.
but I was surprised that MWEC, so, and I said, is this new? And they said, oh, no, we've been doing it, but I think it's within 20 years. I don't think they were doing it 19 years ago when I joined the board here.
No, and I'm not sure how much they're doing it like for people. Again, it's a list of services that they're providing. And so if we decide to do a cost of service study, then we can look at them as a potential candidate. But they've also had a lot of turnover in that department. So,
Oh, okay.
you
They
know,
don't necessarily have the experience that La Capra has at all.
no,
It's not even, who is it now? It's not even La Capra anymore.
no, it's
Hey, Mark.
Daymark.
Oh, yeah.
I guess what I was wondering is if we would pair something like a retail analytics project with a cost of service study to get rates that were differentiated for different
No,
seasons for electric or
Yeah,
for
yeah,
electrification, or I don't know, like, can you pair the two? I don't know.
it's a lot of data and it's a lot of. So cost of service studies rely on a whole bunch of assumptions that you make about percentages of this and percentages of that. And the reality is all our circuits are serving both commercial and residential load. And it's very difficult you're making a guess at what percentage of the cost of that circuit is associated with the commercial load and what is associated with the residential load. And
How much is capacity driven versus energy driven?
right, and yeah, it's a lot of it is, it's a lot
A little
of,
bit of hocus pocus.
it's a lot of bit of hocus pocus, yeah.
So you don't use analytics?
No, I mean,
In
so what
that
happens
study?
is you get it,
It
you
just
get an,
feels weird.
what do you want the answer to be? And then you back it up with all the
Oh,
data.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you don't admit that, right?
It's out of the bag now.
But I thought you did
Been
that.
recorded.
I thought you did it effectively to update if you needed to update your rates. Like that's the first step for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if we decide we're gonna need to do a rate change, that's
Right.
one of the things we would do.
Right.
Yeah, but only if we think that the cost drivers have really changed significantly to justify the expense of even doing it in the first
Correct.
place.
Yep.
Yes.
Because it wasn't that long ago we refreshed it.
Okay.
So it's not something that I think that we need to do anytime soon.
That's what I wanted to find out from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because.
Yeah, I mean, when did it was 10 years ago, maybe we did the
Like 12.
revamp, so it's.
Yeah, and on a percentage basis, it's still the same.
But, you know, something in the back. of
It's good to know that they're offering this and also get it more there's been a lot of turnover that Matt's getting ready. You met Tom Barry. Tom's the new guy that's gonna be in charge of energy markets. He didn't speak much if at all. He introduced himself. Matt Ide, who's been that guy for a long time for us, he's getting ready to retire. They've moved him off to projects. If you heard him say his title, it's like special projects. And he's handling the ISO New England stuff for the last 9 months of his career. Tom Barry's the new Matt Ide, but he's just kind of coming up to speed. So, but his department and Carol's department would be heavily involved in that. So they're in kind of transition right now a little bit. Tom seems like he's going to be really good, and I'm excited about, you know, what's going to happen, but we got to give him some time to get his legs under him.
Okay,
Pete, was there anything from the conference that, you know, struck you as good, bad, and different, you know, anything that, from your perspective as, you know, the GM, you know, we come at it.
I mean, the stuff that around the project stuff that they talk, you know, like in terms of like, they want to get very active in the large scale stuff that we need to think about, you know, they talked briefly about offshore wind and they need to stay in that, you know, they understand what we need as member utilities and, you know, driving towards the green portfolios. So the efforts there, we're doing a lot. I behind the scenes, I was doing a lot of talking about the Berkshire Wind site, and we have a meeting. It was going to be Friday, but they just moved it to next week about Berkshire 3 repowering Berkshire 1. Like what's much like the strategic planning effort? When are we slotting those things? You know, so those are things we're gonna do probably by 2030. So do we start planning it in 26? You know, like, so those are some of the strategic things that we're talking about that we, you know, that's one project that we're a 10% owner of. And, you know, the first phase is getting older and it's starting to show its wear. And so do we maintain it for 3 to 5 more years and then consider repowering it? Like there's a life cycle decision on that, you know? It's like fleet vehicles, you're really only supposed to run them 7 or 8 years, because after the 8th year, the cost to maintain it starts to exceed its value. So that's why you trade in the bucket trucks. We're learning that now about wind turbines. What's the right? It has a 25-year useful life. Well, does it really? If it breaks down every year starting at 16, is it really 25 years or is it like 19? You know, so those are the kind of things with the data and the information we're learning, we need to kind of learn that stuff. And so we're starting to have conversations about that. And when we do that, we have to consider Berkshire 3 also, because we have room for at least 3 or 4 more, maybe 3 to 5 more turbines up there. So what do we do with that? You know, so that's one of the big things. But other things like that, we need to, MWEC knows they need to kind of keep hunting those things out. The large battery project that they were considering at the site, it kind of went on hold for a while. We'll keep exploring that. But the ISO was not going to recognize it as a capacity resource when we first, that 100 and whatever, they're not right. So there's no economics to do that right now. If they're not going to recognize it as a capacity resource, the value of it goes away. You know, it's not like a behind the meter thing where I cut my capacity. It's the front of the meter. So you need to be paid for it to be in front of the meter. And if it's not going to be a capacity resource, there's no economics. So
Why didn't they recognize it?
because they said it was too low and it was artificial. And to some extent, they're not wrong. They need a different model to value it in a different way. Because what they're saying is, yeah, you're gonna dominate the market for only 2 hours. What if I need a generator to run for 8 hours? So if, you know, so how do we value that into the whole proposition? And I don't think they've digested that yet for like a large scale project like that. You know, they don't want to skew the market. And so they're still unraveling a lot of those things, you know. So they have a lot of like small batteries like we do, but the fleet of batteries is going to be a different model.
I'm sure that looking at it was when they brought that up from a capacity market, I think it was April 16th. For 2 hours in California on their grid, battery was the biggest supply. Out of everything, solar, wind, nuke, gas, for a 2 hour period. It was the first time that had happened in there, so.
Yeah, so there's evolving market. So again, we voted to participate in project 2022A, which was the battery. And that, I think they talked about the fact that it kind of got put in the back burner a little bit, but it was mostly because of that. That it wasn't gonna get the valuation in the capacity market in its current state that it made no sense to continue to pursue it. As of this point. But it will change, but.
Okay, anything else on that, Mick? Mick? All right, so then that brings us to what I believe is the last item.
I'll just mention one thing, when they talked about Stony Brook, I think, Jen, you asked a question about how much of the land is underdeveloped and what's the potential to add more resources, and they threw out some numbers like there's the potential for 7 megawatts of solar, 100 to 200 megawatts of energy storage, and so forth. So I guess maybe that's part of the discussion.
Well, yeah.
Berkshire Wind.
So energy storage was part of 2022A, looking
Yeah.
into doing that, but that's why I was
Yeah.
saying so, the board can still consider doing some more solar, if there's interest, there has to be
And then,
a groundswell of interest in doing another solar. A lot of
Yeah.
people, I mean, we're only one of 6 or 7 participants in the,
Sergeant Cotton,
yeah.
yeah, I think.
Because a lot of them are, they feel like they have enough solar in their portfolios. So the
Mhm.
demand has to, for them to take 7 of the acres or whatever, however many acres they would have to take. There's gotta be enough demand among all the members,
Okay.
we're probably on the lower end of the solar spectrum, but if you go out to some of these smaller communities, they have, if you go to Rowley, they have a crap load of solar. None of it's economical, but that's all right. They have a lot of it.
Okay.
They can.
What's that metric?
Yeah.
yeah. They also talked about hydrogen electrolyzers.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I don't know.
demonstration technologies that hopefully, I'd love to see us at the energy park 3 to 5 years from now, be able to do like some demonstration projects, maybe it's a, carbon capture fuel cell or flywheels or some of those things that we could use that last quarter acre for at the energy park. And we'll keep kind of monitoring those things and see like what would kind of make sense to add to that mix in that educational environment. If we could do something like that, that would be really cool.
I am sure there's technology, before they come to market, they want to do grid scale testing,
Right. Well, that carbon capture fuel cell stuff, there's feelers out there to try to do something. They want to do big projects like capturing from a, 200 megawatt power plant, but there's also some small scale ones that want to do it off of peak generators like that. So maybe there's an opportunity to look at some of that as that evolves a little bit more. That would be really cool, take the exhaust of the generator, pump it through a fuel cell in addition to the natural gas, and maybe get some energy out of it and discharge water. That's the technology. Is it ready for prime time? I'm not sure yet, but in any case, that's, those are some of the things we could think about. Flywheels, some of the, they're relatively small in size and but they're small in output too, but maybe that gets a little bigger and, over time, they basically bury them in the ground. They charge them up all day and spin them all night or, vice versa. So, and you basically put them in a big concrete well. So if it fails into the ground, so. So those are some of the cool things that are being considered. I don't know if we're ready for fusion at the site between two high schools, but
Well, I was, and maybe like the, the iron oxidation battery, the rust batteries, which are massive capacities, but slow output. Because they're using essentially rust.
Yeah.
Which is.
Like-
So they get big, like, I think they're essentially like one of those crates, they were saying like they could pack 100 megawatt in. In term, like one of those shipping crates, like what our battery is now. I don't, is it ready for prime time? No, but
yeah,
I'm sure when they get closer, they'll be looking for
places.
scale
Yeah.
sites.
And those are the kind of places that you and I talked about. That's where, like, you might be able to get DOER money at that point, 3 to 5 years down the road. If I brought a carbon capture fuel cell or a rust battery to them and said, hey, we want to do this as a demo project, can there be some DOER funding they love that stuff, so. So we'll keep an eye on that as it evolves.
I like it, science projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, on a small scale like that, there's relatively minimal risk. If you get a few bucks from the DOER or the feds, then, and it becomes educational because it's sitting between the two schools that we're gonna,
I like it.
Okay. Very well, so let's move on to board reorganization. So Elton is currently secretary. He got back to me, when he let me know that he's not gonna be at this meeting. I said, do you want to be chairman or what? And he said, no, let somebody else do it. So he's gonna step down from his role as secretary as well. And so if we follow the regular succession, then that would mean that Sharon is up for the chair position and Tom is up for the secretary position. Does everyone agree on that? That's the
I agree that that's the succession, or, as the seats have been going around.
Okay. How do you feel, Sharon, about that? That sound okay to you?
Yeah, I would be happy to take the chair position. I'm willing to take it. I would like to see if somebody else would be interested in taking the Environmental Sustainability Committee liaison role, and I've asked Jen if she would be interested, and
I would take it.
You would?
Mhm.
Okay,
I have no problem with that.
okay.
and, if there's a transition period that's needed, I'm happy to. So I am on one of the committees, happy to.
Have you been on it before, John, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
he was our
you were on, then you were on like twice and then
Yeah, it was almost 3 years.
3 years up?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I think Jen, you were the first liaison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion then, that we name Sharon Daly as our next chairperson and Tom Betcher as our next secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
uh,
Aye.
Right? And do we have to vote on the liaison? Yeah, I guess we probably do have to vote that you would be the,
Sure.
might as well make it official.
yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion to nominate Jen as the next liaison to the ESC.
Okay.
Aye.
In a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. That's all that I had on the agenda for today. And then this is the part that I always forget. Then do we have
Yeah,
Aaron?
Aaron
call?
calls the end of the meeting.
Okay,
She's now the chairwoman.
Yeah.
I
So you just entertain.
entertain the motion to adjourn the May 8th, 2024 commission meeting.
I'll second.
You have to make the motion. She was entertaining the motion. You said,
Oh, yes, you're right. I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
you got at least 6 months lead up. Jen got none.
I don't know, I couldn't imagine